All right, everybody, we are here today with Owen Shroyer. Very excited for this podcast. Owen, just in case there's anybody that's like listening right now that maybe isn't super familiar, just give yourself like a very brief like rundown as to who you are.
All right. Well, I would say I'm an anti-establishment, anti-government. I guess I land on the right. I guess I'm kind of a conservative, but I'm really just anti-corruption. I think we have a deeply corrupted system really across the entire planet politically, specifically here in America. I'm an American journalist, American broadcaster, talk show host, activist. I've been a political prisoner. I've been censored across all social media platforms in the past. Pretty much all the rap sheet boxes for freedom fighter. I've pretty much checked them off here in my 36 years on planet Earth. And I think that the time that we're in right now, there's kind of a new section forming that I guess I'm just organically kind of landing in, which is this new anti-establishment dissident right that seems to be forming an enemy by the neocons, by the establishment right, which I think we defeated in 2015 and 2016 with Trump. But now they've had their revenge. They've come back. They've co-opted the movement. So I'm standing strong against them, just like I stand strong against the corrupt leftist establishment. But I think the bottom line is I'm a voice for the average American. I'm a voice for common sense, America first, America only, you might say, policy, anti-war, anti-corruption, anti-government, and pro-human and pro-freedom.
Yeah. And I saw you were working with Alex Jones for a while on InfoWars. Like, what was your whole experience like with that? I know that like it ended in kind of like a crazy way, and I saw a little bit of that. But like, how was that whole experience like?
Well, it was a very important experience for me. The things that I learned in my 10 years working at InfoWars, working for Alex Jones, the learning experience was very important for my career. And there's no doubt that the things that I did learn from that decade at InfoWars will be carried with me throughout my career. Some good things, some bad things, some things that you might expect, some things that would probably surprise people. But I'm proud of the work. It did have a bit of a rough ending, if you will. It wasn't exactly a pleasant way to part ways, but the deed is done. And I think that, for me, I was ready to go independent. I wanted to go down with the ship. It didn't work out that way. I still love everybody over there at InfoWars. Even though Alex and I had a bit of a falling out, I still have nothing bad to say about him.
Right.
And I think the work we did there while I was there changed the world. I think we changed the world. And maybe part of me felt like the work was done and it was time to go somewhere else.
Yeah. And what exactly like happened with Alex Jones? Like, if you don't mind me asking, like, kind of go a little bit more into depth. Like, what was like the full kind of falling out with you and Alex?
I really, you know what? I already did a broadcast on this. I did like a 5-hour stream on this. But just to put it short and sweet. Well, let me put it like this. I've always kind of been a Rolling Stone. My work at InfoWars, that was the longest time I'd had the same job, and I've never been fired. So it was never an issue where I was a bad employee. I've just never done the same thing that long. I've always been somebody that's constantly wanted to be moving and changing and shifting. And so that was the longest I'd ever done the same thing. I mean, I worked there for 10 years. That was the longest I'd ever done the same thing. It was very rewarding, but there was a part of me just kind of, I think, anxious and aching to get outside and try my own thing and have full creative control over my show and have just full control over my course, my career, and my destiny. And so, ultimately, that's, I think, what led to it.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. And I was curious too, like, who do you think was behind like the whole Charlie Kirk assassination? Because obviously that happened not too long ago. Feels like a lot of people have already kind of moved on from that. I'm seeing a lot of people saying like Israel was behind it. A lot of like theories speculating around that, and I'm not sure, you probably have already given your take on this, but I'm curious like to hear like who do you think was behind the Charlie Kirk assassination?
You just come right out with the heat. You're just like, one, fastball, Fastball. Fastball.
Well, we only have 30
I
minutes,
dig
so
it.
we gotta
I
get
dig
right
it.
into it.
No,
Hell
I
yeah.
dig it. I'm not going to tell you what I think happened because I don't think it's appropriate at this time. I'm waiting. I came out really aggressive after Charlie was shot. I came out really aggressive and really heavy in my coverage. Basically, what I think is I've debunked, not me, but let's say I think that the official narrative is completely debunked. I don't think it's possible, the official narrative. I think there are things that are just proven to be impossible. I don't think it's possible that Robinson took the shot or the fatal shot. I don't think it's even possible that it was a 30-06 from the front. I think these things are just literally impossible for have that to happen. I think it's pretty clear that there was other prior knowledge, so other people knew this was going to happen. These are kind of the conclusions that I've reached. Those are the things I feel confident about saying today.
Yeah.
So I've kind of reached this period where I only want to say what I feel confident about. So I came out really heavy. I came out really aggressive. And then after Erica spoke at the Arizona Cardinals football stadium, and after that event, I kind of sat back and I said, all right, I've done my big heavy coverage into this. I've done some of the big interviews. I've hosted some of the big debates. And now I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait and see what happens next, because I feel like, something else has to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen in the court case. I don't know if it's going to happen with the FBI or the DOJ. I will say the one thing I was expecting or anticipating that it looks like now we're not going to get, which I think is quite shocking and maybe even a story in and of itself. It looks like we're not going to get another press conference, which is really strange. They never really did a real press conference. They did like two. I've never seen a press conference like it for a big event like this, and I've covered a lot of them. I've even been part of the press pool at a lot of them. Yep. I've never seen a press conference where they just come out there and they basically just read from a script, and they have a bunch of people standing around that don't say anything, and then they don't take any questions. I've never seen that. So I was actually anticipating that there would be a follow-up press conference with the FBI or local police, and it never happened. At least it hasn't happened yet, and we're kind of reaching the point in time where I guess it's just never going to happen. So that was kind of a shock. So I guess if I was thinking there was going to be another press conference that might give us some more answers or maybe some different things to look at, maybe that's not going to happen. So now it looks like it's just going to be the court case. And now the judge is deciding whether there's going to be any media even allowed to cover the case.
Really?
So yeah, that decision was put up in the air today. The judge decided that they were going to let Robinson wear plain street clothes, so he'll be in a suit and tie and not in the shackles with the prison gear on, which is kind of typical because that's considered jury tampering. Yeah, when you present a defendant to the jury and he looks like a violent criminal, then that can sway the jury. Yeah. Whereas if he's in street clothes or a suit and tie, then maybe he can get a fair shot.
Yeah.
So the judge agreed to the defendant's motion to wear street clothes. And now it's going to be the next big decision is going to be whether the media is allowed in there or not. Now, the problem is it looks like, I would say right now, it looks like they're going to ban media. And this is going to be a big problem. And you already have all the conspiracy theorists and all the other people pontificating on what they think happened. And I think a lot of people are landing on that there's a cover-up. And if they ban the media from the courtroom, then, I mean, those voices are just going to get even louder and they're going to get amplified. But I think right now it looks like that's the case because I think the defendant's lawyers are going to motion to ban the media. Yeah. I think the prosecution is going to motion to ban the media. And so then the judge is going to have to make a decision. And the judge is either going to say, well, it doesn't matter what I feel because both sides want the cameras banned. So I guess I have to go 2-for-2 vote. We're going to ban them. Or the judge is going to say, there's way too much human interest. This story is way too big for the American public. I have to let the media in. But I think that's going to be the next big story out of this case, whether or not the media is allowed to cover it or not.
Yeah. And do you think it was at all possible that Israel could have been behind this? Because I'm seeing a lot of people saying that, like, Charlie was starting to speak out against Israel, and then all of a sudden, like, he gets shot. It's just kind of like weird timing. But do you think that's like at all possible or no?
Well, I mean, can anybody say it's impossible? I mean, that's a very open-ended question. But of course, if I say it's possible, then the people are going to come out and say, oh, look, he's blaming Israel, which I've never done. I've never suggested that once. And people still somehow reach the conclusion that I've ever said. I've literally never said that. Never said that.
Yeah,
But I'll tell you what, I'll give you a little controversial statement here because I still don't think that. I don't think Israel did it. I don't know who did it. I just know that the official story is impossible. But I will say this, with some of the aftermath. And again, I'm not reaching any conclusions, but I do wonder because this is how things go in politics. It's a very nasty business, and a lot of people basically get to where they're at in politics not organically. Okay, they're basically propped up to fill a role, and the money behind them puts them into a position of success and influence with a designated purpose. Okay, and let's just say that you're no longer willing to fulfill that purpose or fulfill that role, or maybe you're even going a different direction and you're hurting that purpose and you're hurting that role. Then you know what? Maybe somebody has an interest to get you out of that role, to get you out of that position that they put you in, and they might even feel entitled of like, hey, we put you here, we put you here, and if you're not going to do what we want, then you're not going to be here anymore. So I do think that happens. I do think that happens in the world, generally speaking. I know it happens a lot in politics, not necessarily with the assassination angle, but the angle of, hey, I put you here, and if you're not going to do what I want, you owe everything to me, and so now I'm going to destroy you.
Yeah.
But again, I think that's a general thing that happens a lot in politics and in the world. I'm not reaching any conclusions about that with the Charlie assassination. But again, I think it's weird. I think what I find weird about the whole thing, it's like, well, why aren't we open-minded? I'm not saying you have to reach one conclusion or the other. I could come out and say maybe the Chinese did it, maybe Iran did it. I don't know. They but it's just like, how can you say it's impossible? How can you say anything is impossible at this stage? Because any inquiring mind that's looked into this, I think, has reached the same conclusion. The official narrative is not possible. So if you want to talk about what's possible and what's not, well, I know this. The official narrative is not possible. So anything else, I don't know what I can say is impossible. But I know the official narrative, not possible.
Yeah. We got Sunny here says, do you know much about Islam? And what do you think about all the Muslim hate on Twitter? Like, do you think that's justified or do you think that's a distraction? I think that's a good question.
So I think Americans are having to reinvestigate the anti-Islam propaganda, mostly because for the modern age, the modern sense, I think, what are you like? You're like 20 or younger, right?
I'm 18.
18. Yeah. So we kind of grew up in different worlds, but the world that you grew up in was a result of the world that I grew up in. So, I actually lived through September 11th and the aftermath and everything that happened. So it kind of became a rallying cry after September 11th. Islam is the enemy. Muslims are the bad guys. And for the Americans that watched the Twin Towers go down and everything else, it was easy to fall into that. Now, I don't believe the official narrative of September 11th now. I don't know who it was or what it was. I know it wasn't the perfectly preserved passports that were on top of a pile of rubble and molten lava and the metal that falls on its own footprint like a controlled demolition. So it's like the same thing. It's like, I know that's not possible. I don't know what did happen. I would say it was an inside job. But I think a lot of Americans are now re-investigating this, and they're saying, okay, I was clearly just lied to about COVID. I was clearly lied to about Trump. I was clearly lied to about vaccines. I was lied to about the 2020. It's like, okay, I've been lied to about all these significant events. Maybe I should reinvestigate September 11th. Maybe that was a lie. And you don't have to look into it too much to realize that, yes, that was a lie too. So you bring it to today. So you kind of have maybe people questioning the whole Islam hate angle, kind of re-evaluating that for themselves. And then I think what you have happening now is, as a geopolitical issue, as a foreign policy issue, you have all of these people saying Islam, Qatar, but all we really see is Israel. All we really see is the Israeli flag in Congress. All we really see is the Israeli loyalists influencing us, running the Trump administration. And yet they're all saying Muslim, Islam, Qatar. And we're just like, what are you talking about? You're literally waving an Israeli flag in my face. The entire administration just spent an entire month in Israel. More than 50 members of Congress just spent time in Israel. AIPAC is the most powerful foreign lobbying influence in Washington, D.C. Adelson loves Israel more than America. Trump even said it. So it's just like this weird thing where it's like Israel is in our face 24/7.
Yeah.
And you could even argue Israel loyalists or some Jewish Americans, which I don't like going that route because people make blanket assumptions and blanket statements that are totally inaccurate. So I don't like going that route, even though there obviously is an element of truth to that. But it's just like this weird thing of it's like, no, you need to hate Islam and you need to hate Qatar. And we're like, dude, what are you talking? But we're here, like, they're all in Israel. Okay. They all wave Israeli flags. It's like, what are you doing? So now people are kind of doubly reinvestigating it and like, whoa, this is even stranger now. So I think though, but aside from all of that, I think that the American people are just tired of foreign wars. Yeah. I think that they're tired of foreign influence. And now the biggest voices and the people that want us to stay involved in the Middle East and continue to let Israel run our foreign policy, it appears to the average American now that they are more interested and they are more loyal to Israel than they even are to America. And so I think that that's kind of what's driving this wedge now and what is the focus point of this conversation. And so, of course, they want to claim that you're an anti-Semite or a Jew hater or something like that because it's totally inaccurate. But if they can character assassinate you, they figure then they can null and void your opinions. But I don't think it's working too well, specifically not with the youth.
Yeah. Do you think that Israel could have been behind 9/11?
I would say it's probably likely that Israel had knowledge of it. I don't know. I wouldn't say that they were behind it. I would say it's an inside job. That's what I would say. I would say 9/11 was an inside job. Whoever was running it had to be based in the United States. They had to have connections in New York City. They probably even had to have connections in some way, shape, or form to the administration. So no, I would say it was an inside job. Now, could Israel have been involved in that? Maybe. They certainly benefited from that. They certainly benefited from the aftermath, and Netanyahu seemed to be quite thrilled at being the benefactor of Israel, being the benefactor after that. But I would say 9/11 was probably an inside job more than anything. And if there was any Israeli involvement, it was probably they just had intel that they either didn't share or they just didn't act upon for other reasons.
Yeah. And I'm curious too, like, what's your thoughts on Nick Fuentes? Because obviously he talks about this a lot. He speaks a lot about Israel. Probably like one of the guys that kind of like made it mainstream to be speaking about Israel. So I'm just curious, like, your thoughts about Nick.
Well, let me say this, because this tends to happen a lot in politics, and I don't like it, and I don't think it's fair. I've met Nick multiple times, and I have never had a negative experience with Nick. He's always come across as a very stand-up, honest guy. I've never got any sense of hatred. He doesn't seem to have a bone of hatred in his body. And I know what it's like when you do political commentary and you're passionate and you're persuasive, how things can be misconstrued as hatred or anger when you're really just doing passionate commentary. So, I'd rather comment from my experience as a person. Nick seems to be a good guy. You can say whatever you want about his politics. That's all fair. It's all fair to criticize his politics, but I've never felt like he's a bad guy. And I feel like that's what they're trying to do to him is present him as this bad character, this bad actor, and this evil guy. I've never had any sense of that from any of the times that I've been around Nick, which is probably, it's more than I can count at this point. And it's funny because the only negative things that I've seen when I've been at a public event with Nick was him literally getting attacked. I've seen him get attacked. I've seen him be physically assaulted. I've seen people pour drinks on him. Yeah. And so it's this weird thing where they try to do this character assassination. Again, if you want to have a problem with Nick's political opinions, fine. I have no problem with that. You can disagree with him and dislike his political opinions as much as you want. But to me, this whole act that he's this bad, evil guy, that's where I think they're just completely wrong. But I think that they know that. I think that they do that intentionally. This is what they do. And by they, I mean anybody who's lying to you, anybody who has a political agenda they don't want you to know about, that's who they is. And so the reason why they try to destroy Nick's character is because they don't want you to listen to what he says. That's what I believe is going on. And we have this new phenomenon after Fuentes went on Tucker Carlson, where all these people are complaining, why would Tucker talk to Nick? Why would they have a conversation? And I'm like, I've actually seen this before. Oh, that's right. This came from the authoritarian left. This came from the woke left. It used to be the woke left that didn't want people to talk. It used to be the woke left that wanted to destroy you and call you a Nazi and everything else if you had a different opinion. Well, now it's the woke right. So whenever you see this woke right stuff going around, just always take the measurements and understand.
Yeah.
Words have meaning. What does it mean to be woke? What are the core tenets of woke? Well, one of them is whenever you're losing a debate, you call your opponent a name. You call them a name. You say something negative about them. Well, that's all they're doing right now with the Israel debate. And then the other core tenet of woke is you're always going to end up defending death. The woke left has to defend death all the time, whether it's abortion, whether it was the open borders, whether it's judges releasing criminals back on the streets. Whenever you're woke, you're always going to end up defending death. Well, who's defending death right now? Who's defending the death of 70,000 Palestinians? Who's defending the death of even the Israelis and the IDF that are dying in this war? It's the woke right. So these are core tenets of woke. You'll always end up defending death, and you'll always end up calling your opponent a name. So just ask yourself, who's doing that? Who on the right is defending death, and who on the right is calling their opponents a name? And then you'll find out who the woke right is.
Yeah. What do you think about that podcast that like Candace Owens did with Nick? Because a lot of people are like, oh, that seemed like a hit job. She put it behind a paywall. It kind of seemed like coordinated, like personal attacks. And a lot of Knicks fans were very pissed about that. Like, what did you think about the Candace podcast with Nick?
I didn't watch it. Wasn't interested.
Yeah, fair enough. That's fair. I'm also curious, what do you think about Gypsy Crusader? I think him and Nick have been going a little bit back and forth. He's pretty extreme for me, to be honest. He called me the N-word on Twitter like the other day too. So I'm just kind of curious what you think about him.
I think he's hilarious. I do think he's hilarious.
Yeah, he is funny. I'll give him that. Yeah.
I don't know too much. I don't know too much other than the things that I see where he's doing the different costumes, like the Joker costume.
Yeah.
I think he's done a Homelander costume, a Riddler costume. That's all I know is the bits that he does in costume. And I do find those funny, probably pretty offensive, but comedy can be offensive. So he definitely has a talent for acting and playing a role. And if you're trying to be offensive and funny, he's definitely good at that too. Outside of that, I don't know too much about him. I've never met him. I don't know him personally. So all I can really say is he's good at what he does. I'll give him that, but that's all I really know about him.
Yeah. A lot of people also like want me to ask you, what's your opinions on Hitler? Because like there's a big culture right now that's kind of like Hitler supporters. You probably see this on Twitter too. Like a lot of people saying like, oh, Hitler wasn't that bad. And like, don't get me banned because we're obviously on YouTube, but I got countless DMs of people asking me to like ask you your thoughts on Hitler. So crazy question, but I'm curious.
So there's two angles that I'll take in response to this. One is I understand why people want to do kind of the revisionist history thing. And I even calling it revisionist history, I think is kind of like it's kind of an attack. Like they want to say that like it's some sort of a bad thing. But I think the reason that people are doing it is, again, it goes back to what I said. Look at all the lies that we've been told just in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And these are lies that are going to go down in the history books. You know, we would study American history. I studied American history, grade school, high school, college, and every American history book tells you that Lee Harvey Oswald shot JFK Jr. But now we know that was a lie. It was entirely a lie. It was made up, and they knew it, and they covered it up. So we're kind of looking at this stuff now. I would say it's revisiting history, not necessarily revisionist history, but we're revisiting history because we realize so much of it was a lie. So now people kind of take a look at this stuff and they might be inclined to assume the opposite is true, right? It's like we've been lied to so much about stuff that now people kind of take this inclination that it's the opposite that is actually true. So I think that that's kind of how people wind up on this, this new presentation of who Hitler was, or was he good or bad. As far as what do I think, I don't like to think about it much, because what I see happening is, they want us to live in this post-World War II world. Like, it's like we're obsessed with this post-World War II world, right? And so it's like everything in foreign policy has to be based off of the Holocaust. And it's just like, so you'll see the people that I guess now like Hitler or will promote some of Hitler's ideas. And they'll always complain about how they bring up the Holocaust. Well, I would kind of put that back on you and say, well, then, so if you want to leave World War II out of it, then let's leave World War II out of it. Like, let's just not even go there, and let's just focus on today. Because it's like, I feel like they want you stuck in the past. They want you stuck in World War II. Now, again, I understand why they do it, and I understand why they don't trust the official story from World War II. And there's plenty of reason not to. And you can look at where the country has gone, and even the world has gone since then. And there's plenty of debate of, was it good? Was it bad?
Yeah.
But I feel like now it's kind of like everybody's getting sucked into this World War II vortex. And it's like, hey, we're in the 21st century. This is 2025. It's not going to be too long before that's 100 years ago. So it's like, when do we move on from this? When do we leave World War II behind and say, hey, it's a new world now? I see a lot of the same stuff goes on with the Cold War foreign policy. So it seems like the foreign policy people, the political people, they want you stuck in the past. And when you're stuck in the past, then you're never going to go into the future. So part of me is like, I don't even want to go back because I just want to go into the future. But I understand why people do it. I do.
Yeah. And like, do you think that there's a war on white people? Because like a lot of people are saying that like, oh, white people are getting replaced in their own countries or whatever. For me, I'm kind of like a little bit iffy. Like, I don't know, but I'm like really curious. Like, do you think that there is like an agenda against white people? Like, white people are the only people that can be racist, and everybody else can be racist towards white people, and that's not an issue, you know?
I would say absolutely. I would say there's absolutely a war on white people, but it's not an exclusive. It's not an exclusive thing. I think there's a general war on humanity. I think there's a war on humanity. I think there's a war on really all people. But I think the reason why the white people thing is more heightened is because that's where most of the propaganda is aimed. And I don't know, maybe there's a reason for that. But yeah, there is 100% an agenda to destroy, let's say, white culture, which I think is just, like they say, demographic replacement. You know, they want to flood white countries. They want to flood the West, which is, mostly white people. They want to flood them with immigrants and migrants from all over the world. And they want to basically drown out the white population. I don't believe that's organic. I do believe that is by design, part of the corporate global government design. So yeah, I would say there's 100% a war on white people. It's obviously a heightened sense of awareness when you're in a white country and you're kind of dealing with it firsthand. But I don't think it's an exclusive thing to white people. I think there's a war on humanity all across the world. And there's probably a war on different racial groups in different countries with different racial makeups and demographic makeups. But we live in a country that was, founded by white people, used to be majority white. I don't know if that's still the case. So it's a little heightened sense of awareness here. So I would say, yes, there is definitely a war on white people. But there's really just a larger war on humanity. And depending where you're at, you'll be a target of that war. So like if you're in Asia, there's different groups of Asians that'll be targeted by stuff. There's different wars versus different types of Muslim people when you're in these Muslim countries. So a lot of this goes on. But when you're in a white country, it's obviously a heightened sense of awareness. And that's where all the anti-white propaganda is aimed at.
Yeah, some people take it too far though, and they become like full on like white supremacists, and then they become like Gypsy Crusader. And some people make that their whole like personality, just been like, oh, white people are the best, they're better than everybody else, and it gets to a point where it's almost like hatred against others, and that's what.
Well, here's what I've found, and I'm curious because like I said, we kind of grew up in different worlds. For me, growing up in high school, let's say high school, college, like race was not even really a thing. Nobody really cared. For me. No. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It seems like still most people go throughout their day, whatever it is they like to do, go to school, go to the gym, go to the library, go to dinner, go to a ball game concert, whatever it is you like to do. Most people can go to that and not even think about skin color once. They don't care if the guy sitting next to them is black or white or Latino. They don't care. Asian, they don't know. Most people don't care. So I think that this stuff mostly just exists in the political world. Yeah. From my experience in the real world, it's still highly unlikely that you're going to end up in a situation where race is an issue. It does happen, but I'd say it's still very unlikely.
It's like an internet issue. Like everybody thinks like the biggest thing on the internet. On Twitter, you'll be like, "Oh, everybody's racist." If you open Twitter, and you go outside, it's like people are just being humans. Like people have respect for their fellow human. And then I say that, and people are like, "Oh, you're a cuck. You're Jewish." Like people call me Jewish for saying that I'm not racist, on Twitter. But I think it's just like a cesspool that's not like necessarily doesn't really depict reality in a good way. It's like an echo
Yeah,
chamber.
you got to live from your experience. You got
Yeah.
to live from your real world experience. The internet is a fine tool and a great place to hang out, but you have to live from your real world experience. And from my real world experience, most people don't care about race. They just don't.
Yeah, they definitely don't. What would you say is like the number one issue with society? If you had to pin it on one thing, like what would you say is the biggest problem that like I guess you could say the conservative movement has to like tackle before anything else? What's like the thing that sticks out like a sore thumb to you?
It's government, period. It's government. Our governments are out of control. They are almost wholly corrupted. The simplest solution to fix most of our problems is to just get rid of the government. And I'm not even saying I'm like an anarchist necessarily. I believe that civilization and society can have some semblance of government and some standards there. I'm not like, let's have zero government. I think when a civilization agrees on certain standards and protocols and stuff, then having a government isn't necessarily inherently evil. But the governments we have now, I believe, are inherently evil. They're way too big. They have way too much power. They have way too much power over us, the people. They're involved in nearly every transaction we make. So I think the simplest solution, let's say to save the world, to save humanity, just get rid of government. Get the government out of our lives. Get them out of our transactions. Stop thinking about it. Stop worrying about it. Just free the people from the government. And I think most other things will probably solve themselves. But that's I don't know. I don't know. The government might be too powerful for us to overcome it at this point. But I think that's your simplest solution. Just shrink your government down to like 5% of what it is, and most other things will probably sort themselves out. Or just cut taxes. Just get rid of taxes, and then they can figure it out for themselves.
And how do you think we could do that? Like, what do you think is a good course of action? Obviously, talking on Twitter, spreading awareness, but like, what could people like say watching this, like that want to have a part of this? Like, what could the people watching this do, to actually like, make a change?
So I get asked that question a lot, and there is no universal answer because the fact that you're asking it says that you're on the right course, but you can't ask somebody else. You have to ask yourself. True. That's the answer I like to give is don't ask me, ask yourself. The fact you're asking the question says that you're already going the right direction. Your mind is already thinking and for itself and freeing itself. So the fact you're asking the question is half the battle, but now the other half is you have to answer the question. For me, I was involved in media. I was involved in sports media growing up. I had my foot in the door for multiple career paths for sports media. And I asked myself that question when I realized how corrupt things were. I asked myself that question. Now, for me, the answer was obvious. I'm just going to go into political media. I'm just going to go into political media and political activism. It was already my career path. It was already my profession. So for me, it was a simple answer. And I'm lucky, I guess, that it was a simple answer. For others, it might be more difficult. For others, it might be just raising a good family with good values. For others, it might be getting involved politically, running for office, something like that. But you have to answer that question yourself. Even if you have to ask it to yourself a million times, you're going to have to answer that question for yourself. That's the best way going forward. And I would just encourage people to just understand. The less interactions that you have with the government, the better off you're going to be. And so just remember that as just a general practice. Just you want the government out of your life.
Yeah. Sonny here asks, has Owen looked for the objective truth with religion yet? I'm not sure if you know Sonny, but he's like a white Italian that just like converted to Islam like about a year ago. So I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he's asking if you've looked for the objective truth with religion yet.
Well, I don't know what the objective truth would mean to him. I would say that I'm not a religious zealot. I was raised Catholic in a Christian household. I will maintain those values because I respect my family. But I'm not a religious zealot. I don't claim that I know everything. I will say if there is an objective truth, it's that there is a creator. There is a God, if you will, but there is a creator. We are a creation. Humanity is a creation. We were obviously granted domicile and stewardship over this planet by the creator. So to me, that's an objective truth. And
Yeah.
then, getting into the different religions of the world, I guess that's all upbringing. I guess that's all experience, opinion, emotion, whatever it is. But to me, there is a creator. We are a creation. Humanity is a creation put on this earth with stewardship over it. And then, whatever religion you end up in, I just hope it's promoting humanity. I hope it's promoting good things,
Yeah.
and that it's used to better the planet.
Yeah. Do you think that you ever would look into Islam?
I read the Quran when I
Really?
was in prison. I actually read the entire Bible, and I read the whole Quran when I was in prison. And then, again, I don't like to get too much into the theological, but I will say the one thing that is strange whenever I see, the pro-Israel voices that are always talking about the Quran and how bad it is and everything, I'm like, have you ever actually read the Quran? The Quran is actually in most of the book is actually a mirror of the New Testament. It talks about Jesus and Jesus's life. So it's strange when I see all these people attacking the Quran. And again, it's not my holy book. I'm not promoting it as the truth.
Right.
It's just funny because I'd never read it before. When I read it, I was like, it's basically the New Testament. Much of the Quran is just the New Testament. That's it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know where all this other stuff is coming from. But no, I don't think I would ever convert. I don't think I would ever convert to anything. No.
Yeah. Yeah, no, a lot of people don't know that like Jesus is like in Islam, like he's in the Quran and stuff, like a lot. Like they see him as like a prophet as well. So
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you got people like Andrew Tate that converted to Islam as well. Like, a lot of like really big people are converting to Islam. Curious too, what do you think about Andrew Tate and like the whole situation with him? Obviously, I think he's another like political prisoner. I think he got locked up just for the things that he says on the internet. But I'm curious, like, what do you think about the whole like Andrew Tate situation too?
Yeah, well, that definitely happens. I would put it like this. If they had anything to bring the Tate brothers in and down on, then they would have done it by now. And I think that when you look at all the different cases that have been brought against them, whether you think it was legitimately brought against them or not, they've never been successful. They've always fallen flat on their face, and the Tates remain innocent and free to this day. So despite what you might think about them and the nature of the charges against them, and hey, I don't think they're denying that, maybe they were involved in some behavior that people would consider sordid and immoral. But there's a big difference between immoral and illegal. And so I think that that's kind of where people are trying to blur the lines when it comes to the Tates. So I just look at the results and I say, if they really had anything to bring these guys in and down with, then it would have already been done, and they failed multiple times. So to me, that means that you could say that they've done immoral things, and I don't think they would deny it, but illegal things, I feel like if they did anything illegal, then they'd probably be in jail. And the fact that they're not tells me that maybe all the charges were just BS.
Yeah. And what did you go to jail for? Because you also said that like you were like a political prisoner as well.
Yeah.
I just think that's so insane that like you could put somebody in jail for their beliefs. But like, why did they put you in jail? Like, what reasons do they try to like use for that?
Well, it's a little complex, but it's simply put, I was put in prison for my speech. That's what it was. They put me in prison for my speech. And there's some outlying factors, but just in case people look into it, I was not put in jail for violating a probation. That is a complete lie. I did not violate my probation. So whenever you see that, that is just a complete 100% lie. I was not put in jail for going into the Capitol or anything that I actually did being in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. The only reason, and you can go look at the court documents and look at what the prosecution said, they put me in prison for the things that I said, and not just the things. They didn't just quote things that I said in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. They quoted things that I said prior to January 6th, and they quoted things I said after January 6th, just about Joe Biden, not even about January 6th in the election, just things that I said about Biden and other political figures. So I was a speech prisoner. They put me in prison for speech, and January 6th was just the hook that they used to do it.
Yeah. And like, what do you think about Trump right now? Because like a lot of people are kind of switched up on Trump, saying, "Oh, Trump's super pro-Israel. He's selling out to Netanyahu." People saying he's Netanyahu's slave, pulling out his chair for him and stuff. I'm curious, like, do you still support Trump in 2025?
I mean, support is it's a loaded term. I look at it like if I have a favorite team, I want the team to win, but when the team plays bad or does something bad, I call them out on it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I'm at with Trump. It's like, I don't regret voting for Trump. I'll never regret voting for Trump. And at the very least, he deserved it because they stole it in 2020. But the fact that he freed the January 6th political prisoners, just there alone, I'm never going to regret voting for Trump. Now,
Yeah.
the criticism of Trump in his 10 months since he's been inaugurated, I think is very fair. I did not get what I voted for past the freeing of the innocent prisoners. I did not get what I voted for. The America First agenda, I think, has been sidelined. Now, I think that the thing that people are doing, and they may regret this, we'll see, is judging the entire administration off of the first 10 months. I'm a lot more willing to say, hey, we're in the first quarter. Trump's got 4 years to right some of these wrongs and get some things back on the tracks. So I'm more like, let's just wait and see. I'm not fully ready to say that Trump sold us all out and was a Benedict Arnold. I'm not there yet. I'd say let's at least get through the first 2 years in the midterms, and then maybe let's see if we can reach that conclusion. I will say there are members of his administration that have been an abysmal failure, just an outright failure. Yeah. And I think it's undebatable that the influence of the Israeli lobby is crushing everything else. I mean, it's very clear that has the most pull over this administration. So anybody that denies that, I think, is just being dishonest. But I'm not ready to completely throw Trump overboard yet, even though he basically, once we had the disagreement on the Epstein files, he kind of broke up with us. But I'm more willing to wait out and see what happens in the full game. We're still in the first quarter. I'm more willing to get to the fourth quarter and see what's going on. But I am not afraid or ashamed to criticize President Trump. And I think it's actually pathetic that so many on the right are. Yeah. And I also believe that we're not going to get the things that we want, or things aren't going to get done because of that complacency. If Trump was feeling more pressure from his base on some of these issues, then we might get a different outcome. The whole reason why Israel gets the prioritized treatment is because they're the loudest. They're the loudest, and they get the most access, and they're not complacent. They're not complacent. The American right is complacent. And so that's why the American right never gets what it wants. The Israeli lobby is not complacent. They don't compromise. They don't give an inch, and they get what they want. So I would say to the American right that is sick of seeing Israel get prioritized, well, maybe start acting like Israel. Maybe start acting like the Israeli lobbyists. Don't be complacent. Don't give an inch, and you might start getting what you want too. But I understand the frustration. It's undeniable the Israeli lobby is running our foreign policy, I think, to at least in the Middle East to a certain degree. And there's no doubt that the Israeli loyalists are getting the preferential treatment over the rest of us. I think these are undeniable things.
Why don't you think that Trump would release the Epstein files? Because I saw a tweet Elon Musk was saying Trump was on them, and that was a whole thing, and that's why I didn't. A lot of people are saying Trump is in the Epstein files, or maybe there's some Jewish people in the Epstein files that he can't air out. Why don't you think Trump will release the files?
I have no clue. I mean, you just named some of the reasons, perhaps, but I don't really know. I don't know. Maybe because it's so damaging to the U.S. government. I don't think he's complicit in them as far as, is he blackmailed in these things? I don't think that's the case. But the way they've handled it has been beyond a disaster. It's been insulting.
Yeah. And my last question, I guess, for you here too, because I know you got to go soon, but it's about the COVID vaccines. I think it's so crazy that people moved on so fast from how they mandated the vaccines. For me, I couldn't travel, couldn't go to a restaurant. Isn't that so insane? They clamped down so hard on our freedoms, and people already forgot about that. That's yesterday's news. Obviously it was a while ago, but it's crazy to me that we could ever get to a point where the government says, hey, you have to put this on your body, and if you don't, then you basically are a second-class citizen. But I'm curious what you think about the whole COVID vaccine.
Well, I think Trump is he's got a little bit of that dirt on him, because he kind of let the COVID shutdown and the tyranny happen.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't do the vaccine mandates, But I mean, he kind of ushered in the potential for it. So he's got a little responsibility there. He can't fully skirt that responsibility. And I think that's why we're not going to get any justice as far as that is concerned, because some of that does kind of land on Trump's plate. That's just the truth. But you look at it like this. Let's look at something that is not Trump's fault. Well, I don't know. Maybe people would say it was, but they stole the 2020 election. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the frustration, and this goes back to the whole COVID tyranny, the mask mandates, the vaccine mandates, the shutting down the economy, all of this stuff. It's like there's no justice. There's no justice for any of these egregious wrongs against the American people. There's no justice. And yet somehow we get Iran strikes, right? It's like, here we go again. All of this momentum. We're seeking justice. We're thinking that all these horrible things that happened in 2020 and beyond with Biden, we're like, okay, finally, we're going to get some accountability. We're going to get some justice. And then what do we get? We get Iran strikes, and we get more foreign aid, and we get more aid for Israel, and we get more aid for Ukraine, and we get more war. Now we got war. And it's just like, what happened, man? It's like, what happened? Justice for January 6ers? No. Justice for vaccine mandates? No. Justice for the people that shut down the economy? It's just like, so we get no accountability, and then it's just like, oh, we get Iran strikes. And so that's why a lot of people on the right are disenfranchised, because it's just the same story. No matter who gets in there, it's always the same story.
Yeah, I just think that's so insane that they could have even done that in the first place. Like, people are getting fired from their jobs. Like, my dad had to get it for this job, or we got fired from the government. It's like, I don't know. I think it's just insane, and I think people have to talk about that. One final question. Do you have time for one more question?
Well, you already said final question, so go ahead.
Okay. What did you think about like the Freedom Convoy in Canada? Because obviously that was like truckers that like against the vaccine mandates and stuff. Did you hear about like that whole thing? Like the government of Canada was like freezing people's bank accounts that were like involved in that too.
Yeah, and they were trampling over some of the protesters with the Mounties. Yeah, that was a pretty wild story. And then you had the crazy Canadians out there and like the 2 degrees with their like pop-up carnivals and stuff. You know, it's such a weird thing to reflect on, because it almost doesn't feel real, right? It's like surreal. It's like you can't even believe that we actually went through that. But here you go, and Canada elects another leftist, and it's the same story. Like, there's no justice for those people. Nobody's ever going to right the wrongs that were done to the Freedom Convoy and the truckers and all those protesters. It's just, it's really sad that that's the case. But those were great Canadian patriots. Those are great examples of humanity up there. And despite knowing that they would probably never, get any justice or anything right about it, they still went out there and took the chance anyway. And so we salute them.
Yeah, 100%. All right, Owen, I appreciate it for coming on. Where can people find you if they want to go follow you now?
Best place is on X at Owen Shroyer 1776, and pretty much everything I do flows out of there. But we also are on Rumble at rumble.com/Owen. We're also on YouTube, just fresh back on YouTube. We'll see how long they let me stay. The Owen Report, and that's the show I host 3 to 6 p.m. Central weekdays, the Owen Report. And then I'm constantly doing other interviews like this and bringing other people on for interviews, and just constantly working in the political media.
Awesome. All right. God bless you, Owen. I appreciate you coming on.
All right. Cheers, bro.
Take care. All right, everybody. That was a great podcast with Owen Shroyer. That was awesome. He seems like a really good dude. So Owen Shroyer seems like a good guy. He seems like very genuine, like a lot of people in the political movement, or like the conservative movement, I guess I could say, they don't really seem like super duper genuine, but Owen definitely seems like a very genuine guy. So shout out to Owen Shroyer. You guys should go follow him everywhere. If you guys are new to finding me for some reason, if you guys somehow found the stream pop up, make sure to drop me a follow here on YouTube, Twitter, everywhere. I think I'm streaming pretty much everywhere. So yeah, drop a follow. I'm not sure, Sonny, if you're still in here, but appreciate you for watching too. Guys, go follow the boy Sonny as well. Shout out to Sonny Faz. Yeah. All right. That was it's so funny. You could I got my curtains so you could see through here, and you can see like my little Fortnite poster. My little Fortnite poster from when I was a big Fortnite guy. I know Sonny was also a big Fortnite guy, so shout out to freaking Fortnite. But yeah, God bless you guys. Appreciate it for watching. And yeah, no, that was a W. I'm gonna